on, all the upcoming videos of this series will be available early for the members of the channel. That means that if you have the membership, you will get access to the videos before they will be released to the public. It's a great way to stay ahead and support the channel and dive into the content as soon as it's ready. Thank you so much for all the support, and as always, happy coding.
Hello and welcome to yet another video of our Compose Multiplatform series. This is going to be the next part of our Kotlin basics, and in this video we will be covering loops. So what is loop? A loop is something that you do repetitively. So basically, if there is any certain task that you want to do multiple times, for that you will be using loop. For example, let's say I want to print my name 10 times. So if I have to write a code, how would I do that? For example, so the first implementation is to, let's say, get rid of this. Okay, now I want to print my name 10 times like I said. So for that, what I'll do is that I'll say println and I'll call that for 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 7 8 9 10, right? So I added this, and now let me just run this. So if I run it, you'll see that it will write like print my name 10 times. But like this is not an ideal case. Let's say if I have to do it 20 times, do I have to like copy this and paste it, and this becomes like a huge thing. So for these kind of issues, when basically you have repetitive kind of tasks to do, for that what you can do is that you can use loops. So how do you use loop? For example, you can say repeat 10 times, and then you will say println forgot. Now let me just run this, and you will see that now it does the same thing, but this time only 3 lines, right? I can change it to maybe like 100, and it will just print all the stuff for me. So basically that is something that loops are. Now the loop, it doesn't just do only these kind of things. They're like different kind of things. For example, let's say I want to print my name, but I want to add a number by end of that, so that I know that which like type, or which what was the index. So for example, let's say if I say int count equals to 1, okay, and then we'll be printing count, okay, and now we'll say count plus plus, okay. So that's something I did, and now let's just run this. Oh, sorry, I'm really sorry. Okay, now let's just war. Okay, sorry, my bad. Now you can see each one has a number by end of it, and there will be like different kind of situation where you will be running a specific chunk of code but with like slightly different value. So for these kind of problems, we use loops, and now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to share so how basically loops works. Now the first or the basic demo that I can show, for example, I have a list, okay. Now this list contain basically a couple of names. For example, list of Furkan, Code, FK, YouTube. Okay, so these are the name, and now what I can do is that I can like print the name. For example, now I'll say for item in list, and then I'll say print ln item. Okay, so that's the basic thing. What it does is that it takes this list and one by one process all the item in it. So this is basically for each loop, right? So which means that each item of this list will be printed, and it will be assigned to item one by one. So the first iteration, first time, it will be taking the first item, second, third, fourth, based on the index. Now at this point we don't have the index, but like internally this basically Kotlin understand which indexes, and it wants to take that value. Now let's say you want to have that index, you want to find if the basically to process that index. So for example, item, let's say we want to print something as item is at index. Now over here I want to print like some sort of index over here. We don't have an index over here, so let's say I'll say index equals to 1, because I don't have any index. And If I run this, you will see for all the item it will be showing 1, which is not correct because this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. So how do we get that? So to get that, what you can do is that rather than just only getting the item, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say index comma this, and then over here we'll say with index. Okay, and once you do that, you also need to make sure that we add these brackets, like enclose it inside this bracket, because without it will become an issue. And now let's just test this, right? So now what it will does, it will take that index and assign it, and now you can see that each item has a proper index, and this is how basically you can get the for each loop to get you an index of the items along with the value. So this was the first kind of loop that we had. Now the next loop that we would want is basically a for loop. A for loop normally, what it mean is that it gives you some sort of um, range values. So basically you give it a range that, okay, do it from, run it from this item to this, or like this index to this index, and these kind of scenario. So for these kind of scenario we use for loop. And how do we use for loop in Kotlin is that you just define for, and then you will say, let's say index in, and then you define the range. For example, you will say 0 dot dot. So what does this mean is that it will include both like 0 and also 10. So let's say you want to run the loop till 9, like 9 items from 0 to 9, which means then you will have to do it 9. If you are using this range operator, this means that it will include both sides, like both of them from 0 till 10. Now if I print ln, run this, you will see that it will print from over here. You can say it started from 0. Before that it was printing the rest of the stuff, and then from there it started from 0 until 10, it printed all the items, right? Okay, now let's say you don't want that last item to be added. So for that, what you can do is you can say from I in 0 until 10, which means now what it will do is that it will use, rather than having those two dots, it will use 0, and then it will go until 9, like 10, be like one item before. So let's say if I run this, you will see, oh sorry, it should be I rather than index. Now let me just print that, and you will see that this time it will print till 9, right? And this is basically pretty much similar to this one as well. So let's say if we have something like this, you can define it as this, which means now what it will do is that it will go for one item less than the last value, like this. So either you go with the until, or you go with this approach. Both are same, both are similar, and you can do it. Okay, so now that's one thing. Now let's say you have a condition where basically you want to go reverse, like you want to go from 10 to 0. For that you will say for I 10 down to, and in down to you can say, let's say you want to go till 0, and then print it. So now let me just run this, and you will see that this time it will go reverse. So let's say it went from 10 and it went till 0, right? So yeah, so that's basically how like these different kind of ranges work with for loop. And there's one more thing that you can define, and that is the step. So basically if some sort of scenario where you have like you want to increment two indexes rather than ones, like in this case, what it will do is that it will add 2 into the index. And now if I run this, you will see that rather than printing all the value, what it did is that it printed 10 8 6 4 2 0. And if I add it as 3, now you will see that it will add the values, as like print the values based on the values that were basically the step that we added. So that's basically how the step work in loop, and you can use this for any sort of, yeah, like ranges that you have. For example, if you have the range for this, it will be similar. If you have range for with until, it with all it will work. So that's basically something that we might use based on the need. Now, the next thing is a while loop. So basically, unlike for loop, what it does is that basically it takes all these things that you basically can define the start and end. But while is more like a runtime kind of loop, and it can decide based on how the value is being processed. So, for example, if I say var I is equals to 0. Now over here, what I'll say is if I is greater than or equals to 3, so what this means is that it will run until this condition is satisfied. Sorry, it should be less than equals to 3, which means it will run until the value is either like 3 or less than 3. If it gets over 3, it will not print the value. Now let me just print the value that we have, like the I, and now I'll say inside the same loop, I'll say I plus plus so that the value can be incremented. I'm gonna like comment these loops because we also remove these loops because they are not needed. Now, if you run this, you will see that it will print 0, 1, 2, 3, which was the case. Like it for first iteration, it was 0, but then it printed 0, then incremented it. Then next time it became 1, then printed 1, the condition was satisfied. Then 2, the condition was satisfied and printed, and 3. And when it became 4, the condition wasn't satisfied. So this was basically this how it went outside the loop and the program ended. And there can be like some cases, what happens is that there are some cases where you want to do one iteration at least before making it into the condition. So for that case, what you do is that you use do while loop. And how we write the do while loop is basically we say do, and then you define the condition. So let's say I'll say var I is equals to 0, let's say. Okay, and now inside that I'm gonna say print ln, and I'll say I, and now I'll over here what I'm gonna do is that I'll say that run only if I is greater than 0, which means the set condition will not be satisfied, right? Now when I run it, ideally in normal case what you should do, that if you run it direct while first condition will fail, which means the I is not like greater or not, in that case it's equal, so which means this condition will be not satisfied and it will not run. But with do, what happens is that for the first time it doesn't check for the condition, it runs, and then for the next iteration it checks the condition. And now if you run this, you'll see that you got the 0, and then like it became like it could not rerun, or like it could not run the next iteration. Now, there's one more thing that I wanted to show you, and that is the break and continue statement. And what does the break and continue mean when it is loop, when there's basically a loop or something. So in that case, let's say you have a loop, we'll say while, and over here I'm gonna say, so I'm gonna say for I in 0 to 5, right? So let's say if I equals to 3, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say continue. Okay, and let's say if I equals to 4, I'm going to say break. Okay, and then lastly what I'm going to say, I'm going to say print ln, and I'll print I. So what does this mean is that what will print, what exactly this means, like this whole thing. So basically, if you talk about continue, what happens is that if the index is 3, what it will do is that it will not let the rest of the condition, or like the rest the code will, it won't run, because the continue will take the control back to the loop with an increment variable. So let's say, so in case of I equals to 3, it will increment it and take it outside. But in case of 4, what happens is that it will not even let the next iteration, like for 5 it will not run, and you will see it. So basically, let's see if, or let me just do one more thing to make it more easy to understand. And I'll say 5. So what happens is that it will print for 1, for 0, for 1, for 2, and for 3 it will not, because it will just skip it. And then for 4 it will print, but 5 and 6 will not be executed, because this time will basically kill the whole, like take the control outside the loop. So you will see now when you run it, you see we got 0 1 3 was skipped, 2 0 1 2 3 was skipped, 4 was printed because, like, again, and then for 5 it broke down, and then even for 6 it didn't work. And now if, let's say, if I make it 10, it doesn't matter because the loop breaks at I index 5. And now let's say if I change the index to 7, this means now it will run till 7, and on 7 it will break. So basically that's how the continue and break works, is that basically continue just skip the current iteration, but break basically skip the whole iteration, and it basically takes you out of the control of the loop. And I think that's pretty much about loops in Kotlin, and how basically Kotlin, like what kind of loops are there in Kotlin, how different conditions, how different ranges works, how different flows works. So we'll be using it in our normal daily use, but this was something more basic for you guys to understand. So thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, happy coding. Bye bye. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and press the bell icon so you don't forget any update. If you got any question, you can join my Discord server. The link is in the description. Also, for quick updates and tips, you can follow me on Instagram. Until next time, keep learning, keep developing. Bye.